Hello, everyone. I hope you will support the discussion in the comments and tell me what you would do if you found yourself in the situations I am going to talk about today. My morning didn't start with coffee, but with the shocking sight of a fence on my land. No one had ever dared to do that before. Everyone knows this is my farm, and no one has the right to enter without my permission. I approached the fence and was surprised by its sturdiness. The cement hadn't fully hardened, which was obvious because the last time I was outside, there was no fence. This barrier was absurd. It didn't cover much and was easy to bypass. But in reality, it was just a so-called protest. My neighbor's protest against the fact that his land was smaller than mine. I've had conflicts with him for many years. When I first moved in, we were friends and even went on vacations together. Our friendship broke down when my father-in-law died, and my wife and I began to own his private property. To clarify, we lived on one large piece of land with 3 houses, one for guests, one for my wife and me, and one for her father. It turned out my neighbor had been friendly because he hoped my father-in-law would grant him a piece of land he had always dreamed of. During a normal conversation, he explained how precious this land was to him and mentioned that he had a verbal agreement with my father-in-law. However, since my father-in-law had died, it was now my mission to continue what he had started. My answer was no. Why should I give someone else land that belongs to my family? First of all, even if I wanted to, I can't do it without my wife's consent, and she is even more principled than I am. When he erected that fence, I thought it was the last straw, but it wasn't. The final blow came a few hours later when he sent his lawyer to confront me, repeating the same stories he'd been telling me for years with a straight face. You can imagine the level of professionalism this lawyer possessed. I waited for several hours for my neighbor to come out and talk to me. I clearly told him that if the fence was still there by the end of the day, it would turn out badly for him. He argued and lost his temper until my lawyer arrived and explained that the notion of "this is my new fence, so now it's my land" was a losing strategy that could cost him dearly. Always have good lawyers on speed dial because I also received compensation. Good compensation. Before the next story, I would like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Let's move on to the next story. It was around 5 years ago when I found myself working for a well-known proprietary trading firm. This multinational company had recently expanded, opening a new office in my city a couple of years before I joined. For those unfamiliar with the industry, most proprietary trading firms tend to have a high turnover rate. They typically hire a large number of traders and only retain those who can consistently perform under pressure. The firm I worked for had recruitment cycles every 3 months. They could accommodate roughly 120 traders, but the office was rarely at full capacity. Each quarter, about 20 new traders were brought on board, but only around 5 made it past the initial 3-month internship period. Even fewer, sometimes just 1 or none, successfully navigated the additional 3-month probationary period. By the time I joined, the company had been operating in my city for 2 years, and there were only about 4 individuals I could consider permanent employees. The rest, approximately 10 others, were either still in their internships or under probation. I was among a group of 25 recent university graduates recruited directly into the firm. The internship was lucrative, offering nearly double the pay of entry-level positions at other financial institutions, plus bonuses once we transitioned to live trading accounts. This was an enticing opportunity, and I was genuinely excited to embark on this new career path. My first encounter with my future boss, a respectable man from India, occurred during an industry day event at my university. It was there that the company administered IQ tests, and I was pleased to find that I had passed with flying colors. The office structure was relatively flat, much like other mid-sized firms. Traders like us were at the base level, with the HR and operations manager overseeing our work. Above her was the office manager, who effectively served as the branch head. The branch head was known for being accommodating, often granting time off as long as the day's objectives were met, a policy that was well received by the team. However, the HR and operations manager was quite the opposite. She was exceptionally difficult to work with, exhibiting behavior that made the workplace environment tense and uncomfortable. For the sake of anonymity, let's refer to her as Laura. My first significant interaction with Laura occurred during my final interview at the company's office. As I registered at the front desk, Laura stormed out of her office, visibly agitated, and demanded certain documents from the receptionist. The receptionist was about to complete the registration process with me when Laura intervened, ordering her to step away and attend to more pressing matters. Our conversation unfolded rapidly. Laura, you're one of the new recruits, aren't you? Me, yes, I am. I'm really excited to start. Laura, don't get your hopes up. I doubt you'll make it here. Me, why do you say that? Laura, you come across as too soft. There was a brief silence before she continued. Laura, but I might be able to help you out if you're willing to offer something in return. Me, laughing. Is that so? Laura, I'm serious. A little gesture and I'll make things easier for you. Otherwise, I can ensure you don't even get to the interview stage. Me. No, I don't think that's appropriate. Laura. Foolish mistake. She delivered these remarks directly to my face and proceeded to exclude me from the interview process. Instead of conducting the interview in the main waiting area, she made me wait in a secluded corner where I couldn't be easily noticed. Despite this setback, I was able to proceed to the interview because, apparently, the branch head had been impressed by my previous interaction with him and wanted to understand why my resume wasn't present. Laura claimed I hadn't submitted it, while the receptionist insisted otherwise. As I approached the desk, the receptionist found my resume discarded in the trash, leading to an awkward moment where everyone turned to look at Laura. From that point forward, Laura harbored a deep-seated animosity towards me. She was a micromanager to an extreme degree, imposing numerous restrictions that hindered our ability to perform effectively. Access to essential trading sites was limited to those on her approved list, which was glaringly inadequate for the demands of our roles. Meetings were scheduled at inconvenient times, especially when the branch head was unavailable, and these meetings were so long that we couldn't leave to check on our trading positions. She had a habit of taking my lunch, and when I confronted her about it, she dismissed my concerns rudely. To cope, I started bringing 2 sets of lunches and remained focused on the work I loved. Laura was married with 2 children and was quite attractive, which seemed to attract a number of male colleagues who would engage in extended lunches and outings. However, she always made sure to be with her family on Thursdays, when her husband would pick her up, presumably for a family dinner or similar engagement. About 2 months after I joined, our manager left the company, possibly to return to India for personal reasons. His departure left a void in leadership, and Laura stepped in as the de facto head of the branch, despite her limited knowledge of futures markets. Her first significant misstep was delaying my promotion from the internship to the probationary period. Despite being one of the top performers in my group of 26, she only promoted those she favored, keeping me and another colleague in the internship while letting 4 others go. When a new recruitment drive brought in another group of 20 interns, it was clear that Laura's vendetta against me was far from over. Surprisingly, she held onto her power for so long, especially considering that my former manager had previously advocated for my promotion from the simulator to a live trading account. Nevertheless, I remained diligent, seeking advice from my former manager and the permanent employees to improve my skills and performance. 3 months later, during the next evaluation, I was still not promoted to probation, even though the new recruits from the second group had all been advanced. I was the best and the only one actively trading live in my group, yet Laura continued to overlook my achievements. The permanent traders acknowledged my abilities, often seeking my guidance, although most of them were still using simulation accounts and had not progressed to probation. Despite being a live trader and earning a good income, I remained stuck in the internship phase, unable to understand why my hard work wasn't being recognized. Determined to resolve the issue, I decided to address it directly with Laura. I approached the more experienced traders, explaining my situation without casting Laura in a negative light. They were sympathetic and agreed to support me. About a month after being passed over a second time, Laura finally promoted me to probation. At that time, she was still insecure about her position and wary of the permanent traders, who were held in high regard within the company. 2 months following my promotion, another round of evaluations and recruitment took place. Once again, I was not promoted, even though my performance was on par with the permanent employees. The group I had originally joined became permanent despite only 2 members actively trading live. Meanwhile, my probationary group was promoted to permanent status, and a new batch of interns was hired. Frustrated but hopeful, I hoped Laura had moved past her issues with me, but unfortunately that was not the case. 3 months later, I was still trading live and thoroughly enjoying the role, though still on probation. During the subsequent evaluation, I was once again overlooked for promotion, despite my performance being nearly equivalent to the permanent traders. The probationary group I was part of was advanced to permanent status, but none of them were actively trading. The group behind me had caught up in performance, and yet another set of new interns was brought in. Realizing that this was a continuation of Laura's vendetta, I approached the original 4 permanent traders, who had become good friends, to seek their support once more. However, this time, Laura had grown more entrenched in her position and refused to consider my promotion, dismissing any evidence of my capabilities with a dismissive attitude. Unwilling to accept this, I reached out to my former manager, who had since been promoted to oversee operations in another region. He was taken aback by my continued probationary status, given my consistent performance. After discussing the matter with higher-ups, an official order was issued and Laura reluctantly handed me my promotion letter, clearly irritated by the turn of events. I thought this would be the end of Laura's attempts to undermine me, But I was mistaken. During the next recruitment cycle, Laura hired a new trader named Emily. Emily was intelligent and showed promise, but she lacked the emotional resilience required for the high-stress environment of trading. Trading demands both high IQ and EQ, and while her analytical skills were strong, her ability to manage stress and maintain composure under pressure was lacking. Despite this, Laura continued to support her, perhaps seeing potential where others saw weaknesses. By this time, the office had grown to about 70 employees. Over 30 were permanent staff, including myself, but only 11 were actively trading live. Another 20 or so were on probation, with only 3 actively trading, and none of the interns had progressed to live trading. The branch was struggling to maintain profitability, as the limited number of active traders couldn't cover the extensive overhead costs, including salaries, rent, supplies, health insurance, and pensions. It became clear that the branch was underperforming, and corporate was considering shutting it down, which would result in significant job losses. Laura, determined to retain her authority, exploited a vulnerable and distressed colleague, Emily, to falsely accuse me of inappropriate behavior. Emily had been struggling with her trading performance, experiencing significant losses and stress. One evening, while reviewing her trades after a particularly bad day, she became overwhelmed and began to cry. Understanding the pressure she was under, I tried to comfort her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Unbeknownst to me, Laura witnessed this interaction. The next day, Laura approached Emily with a manipulative proposal. She offered to secure Emily's position and provide her with financial incentives if she accused me of misconduct. Emily, desperate to keep her job, agreed to fabricate the allegations. What followed was a series of events that turned my professional life into a nightmare. I received a formal reprimand from corporate and was summoned to a hearing I couldn't attend because Laura had conveniently forgotten to send me the summons. During the hearing, Laura vehemently accused me of inappropriate behavior and insubordination. My only defense was the support of my former manager, who vouched for my character and performance. Despite his intervention, I faced significant repercussions. I lost my quarterly bonus, which amounted to a substantial sum, and half of my holdback. Additionally, I was required to attend mandatory seminars focused on workplace conduct, which involved watching lengthy films on the subject until I agreed to acknowledge the false accusations in writing. Refusing to comply meant enduring grueling hours in the office every day, from early morning until late at night, repeating the same routine for almost 7 months. Laura took every opportunity to remind me of the allegations, making my work environment increasingly unbearable. All the colleagues I had been mentoring were transferred the day after my reprimand. Soon after, Laura informed me through a formal letter that my trading capacity had been drastically reduced from 1,000 to just 20 contracts. I was devastated. But Laura didn't realize the extent of the damage she had caused. Determined not to let her win, I began to plot my response. The first step was to gather evidence of Laura's misconduct. I noticed that whenever I took my lunch break, someone would open my desk drawer and mess around with my notebook, where I meticulously jotted down my trading strategies and ideas. The only person with access to my locker besides myself was Laura. It became evident that she was the one responsible for the intrusion. I observed that during my lunch breaks, Laura had perfected her routine of accessing my locker while I was away, copying my notes and passing them on to Emily. I even saw her doing it once, but she didn't see me. I began documenting each incident meticulously, noting the dates, times, and any suspicious activities. Over time, a clear pattern emerged, showing how Laura was systematically undermining my performance by siphoning my ideas and presenting them as her own or those of her preferred traders. Armed with this evidence, I decided to approach 2 of the permanent traders I trusted the most. They were both highly respected within the firm and had become close allies over the past few months. I explained the situation to them in detail, presenting the documented evidence of Laura's sabotage. Understanding the gravity of the situation, my 2 friends agreed to support my plan. We devised a subtle strategy to highlight the branch's declining performance without raising immediate suspicion. By slightly reducing our trading activities, enough to affect the branch's bottom line, but not so much as to trigger immediate alarms, we aimed to create a scenario where corporate would take notice and initiate a comprehensive audit. As the weeks passed, the deliberate reduction in trading volume began to take its toll. The branch's financial performance started to dip, and corporate headquarters took notice. 3 weeks into our strategic slowdown, representatives from the head of operations and other senior executives arrived at the office for an impromptu audit. The presence of these high-ranking officials was a clear sign that the branch was under scrutiny. During this period, I continued to gather more evidence against Laura. I discovered that Emily, the new trader Laura had brought in, was struggling significantly. Her lack of emotional resilience made her vulnerable to Laura's manipulative tactics. Seizing the opportunity, I approached Emily under the guise of offering mentorship and support. I created a safe space for her to express her frustrations and concerns, subtly guiding her to recognize Laura's manipulative behavior. One afternoon, as we reviewed Emily's trades, she confided in me about the immense pressure she was under and how Laura had been making unreasonable demands. Sensing an opening, I gently encouraged her to document these interactions and consider the possibility that Laura was exploiting her vulnerabilities to serve her own agenda. Emily, desperate to retain her position and unaware of Laura's ulterior motives, began to see the truth in my words. With Emily's cooperation, I felt confident that we could build a strong case against Laura. We coordinated our efforts, ensuring that our documentation was thorough and irrefutable. The plan was to confront the higher-ups with undeniable evidence of Laura's sabotage and manipulation, thereby forcing her out of her position of power. Meanwhile, the branch's financial woes continued to escalate. The reduced trading activity had plunged the branch into the red, and corporate was growing increasingly impatient. The arrival of the senior executives only heightened the pressure, as they began to question the branch's leadership and operational inefficiencies. The atmosphere in the office was tense, with employees feeling the strain of the impending audit and the uncertainty of their futures. As the audit progressed, Mark and Jason maintained their reduced trading activities, further highlighting the branch's declining performance. The financial instability, coupled with Laura's ongoing sabotage, painted a dire picture that needed to be addressed swiftly. I continued to build my case, knowing that the outcome of this audit could determine the fate of the entire branch. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of meetings and evaluations, I received a call from my former manager, who had now been promoted to oversee operations in another region. The manager expressed his surprise and concern over the branch's declining performance and hinted at the possibility of a major restructuring. Realizing that time was of the essence, I redoubled my efforts to finalize the evidence against Laura, knowing that any delay could jeopardize our chances of bringing her down. The day of reckoning arrived when the senior executives scheduled a comprehensive review meeting. The entire branch was on edge, awaiting the outcome that could either save or condemn their professional lives. As the meeting commenced, I took a deep breath and prepared to present the evidence we had painstakingly gathered. The time for silent suffering was over. It was time to confront the injustice head-on. During the audit, I and my allies presented our case methodically. The documented evidence of Laura's sabotage, combined with the noticeable drop in our trading performance, painted a troubling picture. The senior executives began to see the pattern of internal sabotage that Laura had orchestrated, not just against me, but against the branch's overall success. Emily was then called to testify. With my encouragement, she bravely shared her experiences of Laura's manipulative behavior and the unrealistic expectations she had been subjected to. Her testimony, combined with the documented evidence and the financial decline of the branch, left little room for doubt. The head of operations, along with the other executives, realized that Laura had been undermining the branch's success for her personal gain and to maintain her precarious position within the company. The final piece of evidence came when Mark and Jason presented their own findings, corroborating the pattern of sabotage Laura had orchestrated. In the aftermath of the meeting, Laura was placed under immediate suspension pending a thorough investigation. The senior executives commended Mark, Jason, and me for our courage and integrity in bringing the issue to light. As the investigation unfolded, more instances of Laura's misconduct came to the forefront, including unauthorized access to personal lockers, manipulation of trading records, and unethical treatment of employees. Eventually, the evidence was irrefutable. Laura was formally terminated from her position, and a series of disciplinary actions were taken to rectify the damage she had caused. The branch underwent a significant restructuring, with new leadership focused on fostering a supportive and transparent work environment. The once tense atmosphere began to shift as trust was rebuilt, and the remaining employees felt a renewed sense of purpose and motivation. With Laura out of the picture, my professional standing was restored. I received not only my withheld bonuses, but also additional compensation for the undue stress and hardship I had endured. The experience, though harrowing, taught me invaluable lessons about resilience, the importance of standing up against injustice, and the power of strategic action in the face of adversity. As the branch stabilized and began to regain its profitability, I took some time to reflect on the journey. The road to revenge had been fraught with challenges, but it ultimately led to a just resolution. The bonds forged with Mark, Jason, and Emily proved to be instrumental in overcoming the obstacles we faced highlighting the significance of solidarity and mutual support in a competitive environment. Looking back, I realized that while the desire for revenge had fueled my determination, it was the pursuit of fairness and the restoration of integrity that truly drove my actions. The experience reshaped my perspective on leadership, ethics, and the dynamics of workplace relationships, leaving a lasting impact on my professional and personal life. After the branch was restructured, the senior executives decided to relocate the performing employees to other branches in London and India, ensuring that no one undeservedly lost their jobs. I chose not to take up the offer to relocate to India, feeling the need to take a break from the intense world of trading after all that had transpired. Instead, I decided to work with a friend who owned a consultancy firm. It was a welcome change, allowing me to step back and regain my footing without the constant pressures of the trading floor. Occasionally, I would check on former colleagues through professional networks. I still kept an eye on Emily, who eventually found her footing and secured a position as a research analyst at another firm. Mark and Jason thrived in their new roles, their careers flourishing thanks to the support we had given each other during the difficult times. My former manager remained a trusted mentor, and we kept in touch, sharing insights and experiences from our respective branches. Despite the relief of leaving the high-stakes trading environment behind, I couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of unfinished business. The ordeal had taken a toll on me, both professionally and personally, but it had also strengthened my resolve and honed my problem-solving skills. I knew that if I ever chose to return to trading, I would do so with a deeper understanding of the industry's challenges and the importance of maintaining integrity in the face of adversity. The entire experience was a testament to the importance of resilience and the power of strategic action. It reinforced my belief that no matter how insurmountable a challenge may seem, with determination and the right support, it is possible to overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The lessons I learned during those 5 years have stayed with me, shaping my approach to both my career and personal life. In the end, what began as a journey filled with frustration and injustice transformed into a story of triumph and personal growth. The challenges I faced at the trading firm were difficult, but they ultimately led to a greater sense of purpose and a clearer understanding of what it means to stand up for oneself and others. The bonds formed during those turbulent times proved invaluable, demonstrating that true strength lies not just in individual capability, but in the collective support and solidarity of those around us. Reflecting on those years, I recognize that while the path was fraught with obstacles, it was also paved with opportunities for growth and self-discovery. The experience taught me to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics, to remain steadfast in the pursuit of fairness, and to leverage strategic thinking to achieve meaningful outcomes. These lessons have been instrumental in my subsequent endeavors, providing a solid foundation upon which I continue to build my professional and personal aspirations. The legacy of those challenging years remains a cornerstone of my professional journey, reminding me of the resilience and determination that can drive one to overcome adversity and emerge stronger on the other side. It serves as a powerful reminder that, even in the face of significant challenges, it is possible to forge a path toward justice, integrity, and personal fulfillment. Thank you for watching.